All right, everybody. Welcome back. It's time to get started with our very first session today. Take your time, come in, find a seat, and sit down. So, according to what we have been already discussing today in the morning, well, we want to start to do things together. So what you will find with all of the sessions that are going to follow is that we're doing something together. And the first session that we're doing together is about learning, different kinds of aspects of learning. It's about sharing success, experience, innovation across our community. So what we're now going to see is basically 4 different sessions. No worries. I will introduce each of these sessions then individually, but we start with something that is also at my heart, basically, because I'm not only leading the German chapter, but also I'm this steering committee leader of our professional certification program. And as you all know, professional certification is about competencies. It's about skills, because, well, what we deliver, what we provide to our openBIM community, to our users, is all of this, right? We have technical standards, we have services, and we have process capabilities. So many beautiful things, and of course, now in the upcoming sessions and over the following days, you will hear a lot about those. But all of these things, right, they need to be connected. They need to be connected by people. And it's not only people, it should be skilled people. And this is exactly what professional certification is about. And this is now exactly why we have a few people here on stage. Thank you so much for joining. And let me quickly introduce who we have here. First of all, Sarah Merz, Head of Academy at .BIM, architect and civil engineer with Stanford roots. And she's been one of the key drivers behind the PCert rollout in Germany. We have Rasso Steinmann. You don't really need an introduction, but thank you so much for joining. Rasso is well known because he has been one of the pioneers of openBIM and digital transformation, not only in Germany, but also internationally, and also being the chairman of buildingSMART Germany for a long, long time. Christian Schranz, professor at the Technical University in Vienna, head of the Digital Construction Process Group, and also he is working together in the PCert working group on the German level. Then we have with us Markus Maasberg, representing the Bavarian Chamber of Architects, and he is a vital training partner, the Joint Professional Certification, and he is also here to share why it's interesting for the Architect Chamber. And last but not least, Georg Knobloch with us, project manager at buildingSMART Germany, and he is one of the operational leads of the professional certification program. So, and together, the idea is that we now talk a bit actually about how professional certification as a program actually started. And maybe, Rasso, you're the best person actually maybe to explain us a bit basically how this whole thing, and you can see it over here, actually started in 2008 and made its way up to now 27,000 certified individuals. So, Rasso, how did that all start and why?
Yes, before I respond to you, I just want to say hello to all the fellows which joined this journey so far. And I'm really glad to meet you today here and to celebrate the 31st birthday. To your question, the whole thing, I think, roots back to 2013. This was a year, well, obviously we started with buildingSMART earlier in Germany. This was a year where suddenly a lot of Germans started to understand what BIM is and what can be done with BIM. And at this time, different people said, yeah, we also need standards in Germany. And of course, in buildingSMART, we are making standards. And then we have the standardization organizations like VDI and DIN. And the big difference is when we make a standard here in buildingSMART, we agree in this community. While when the regulators make a standard, they ask the public. So everybody in public can negotiate or can bring up issues, and everybody can talk up when a new standard is established. And so this started in 2013, and somehow VDI took the initiative. They had 1 year of expert workshops and then said, okay, we're starting this to develop this BIM standards. And then they asked me to chair this. And so we built up this regulation in VDI. And during this time, of course, when more and more people saw okay, this is serious, more and more people said, okay, we need training, so that more people understand. And then some people thought, okay, there's a new way of business, and they started to offer training. And I observed that this was a jungle of different training offers, and everybody defined what is the right thing to train and to learn. And they said, well, this is probably ending up in a chaos. And since we had then this VDI initiative, I said, okay, let's make a standard what people should know at least about BIM, so that we have a common denominator. And then we brought people together. We had people from academia, from the industry, and this standard was developed. And then, of course, the next thing is when you have agreed on the level what everybody should know at least, then, of course, you have to prove it. So you need a certificate. Then we also had now different people said, I make the certificate and I have a better certificate and so on. And the real value of a certificate is if it is acknowledged by many people. And I think this is what we have achieved here. And for this, of course, buildingSMART is great, but of course, VDI it's the largest engineering association in Germany, and it's a very serious and recognized serious organization. And it has a huge and long-standing reputation. And so this combination then was really successful because with this combination of buildingSMART and VDI, we achieved that many people acknowledged the certificate. And this was the core where everything then started.
Perfect. And I'm like, we see that it's growing, just taking a look at the number and also the business. Obviously, that was one of the key enablers, at least one of those. But maybe, Sarah, you can give a bit more insights why Germany and the German-speaking area, as you can see it over here, is growing as much.
Thank you very much. And I have to excuse myself, I'm a bit short-sighted, but I think we are at about 12,000 certified individuals right now in Germany. Thank you. And yes, of course, it was everything what Rasso said beforehand. And another key factor is that in Germany, as soon as you are having a national standard, in public tenders, you are allowed to ask for BIM competence as a suitability criterion in tenders. And we had this national standard or VDI, buildingSMART standard. So this was the certificate to get. And by having so many people being interested in certification and getting certified, they also acknowledged buildingSMART as a real trustworthy organization. And for many users, for many architects, engineers, etc., the certification program was what made buildingSMART popular in Germany. And of course, in the next step from there was that they were asking, hey, do you have maybe anything else, anything more? Because it's one thing to have the lowest common denominator of building information modeling knowledge. But what if I would like to be, for example, a BIM manager or a BIM coordinator? And that was also the reason why we started to develop and published the BIM management and BIM coordination practitioner program, which is meanwhile widely accepted in Germany and Austria, and also with, I would say, about almost 70 registered training providers offering.
Talking about training providers, we have a special kind of a training provider today with us, with you, Markus, because I, already said, like, you are representing as an architect the Bavarian Chamber of Architects. So this is a bit like a public organization, you could say, but why is the Bavarian Chamber now interested in also delivering professional certification? Why this certificate?
Yeah, we were beginning 4 or 5 years ago. The National Chamber was inventing a new BIM qualification program to all our members in Germany. And they were spreading it to the 31 regional chambers as well as for the Bavarian one. And it is a proof of qualification for public procurement procedures.
Yeah.
It's quite only national. It's according to the VDI as well. So the certification is coming from the Ministry of Construction and Urban Development. But all our members who were going through that certification, really it's about 5 months, they said, okay, it's very nice to have a national certification, but we'd like to have an international certification. So as well with Georg, we're putting our heads together, and now we are really looking to get this course because it's very near to the practitioner to get it certified internationally.
Great. So it's a bit of a complementary system, right? So where many of these things actually you find into each other, which is great. So we have been traveling now into the south. Let's go a bit deeper into the south with you, Christian, because I mean, like now we have been talking a lot about Germany and how these kind of things work. But what about Austria? So specifically, how did that match, not only language-wise, but also how that applies in the market?
As Sarah and also Rasso mentioned before, they were the same reasons. One is that the software vendors had very good courses how to make a good BIM model. But when you use BIM and make a successful BIM process, we need to know more. And that was the reason we invented this we used this PCert program. And the first thing we realized is that the level of awareness that buildingSMART at all exists, which is astonishing for us, for this group here, really was raised with the foundation certificate. So a lot of people then know the common understanding is clear, but it was so successful that we also invented in our high schools. We have in Austria this kind of technical high schools where you also can make the field of civil engineering. And in this one, we introduced also the foundation certificate, and they like it. Because after you pass the high school, you have this common understanding. You know all the terms, you know what to do, the first steps for a successful program. Then we work together, especially with Germany. So it's not only learning together, it's also working and creating together with the practitioner certificate. And in Austria, we had the same. We needed something for the field of openBIM management and for openBIM coordination. And there, all stakeholders learned. So what we did in Austria, we invited all the stakeholders. So the public clients, they also took the courses, and they know what is the content and what the people know after they take these education steps. And I think after that, after you make these courses, you know how to successfully be as a BIM coordinator or a BIM manager, and make these fields. And as Max just said in the last session before, it's you want to have the excellent people, you want to have the good people. And I think if you have this PCert program, this certificate, you know what they know. So you know that they're excellent. And the foundation for this is our PCert handbook.
Talking about the PCert handbook, because this is something coming from Austria, and I guess many of you have seen that actually, because you have been quite making a lot of noise around it, and well, there was a good reason about it. And this has been now starting actually in German language and also English language. But what is the feedback, and how does that develop further?
At the beginning, the first version was this kind of Austrian edition. And we really called it because we had a lot of Austrian behavior in there, Austrian steps you make because of Austrian laws and codes. And then we got the feedback, hey, we are going to use your handbook as a learning material in Germany, in Switzerland, in some English-speaking countries. Could you be a little bit more international? And that was the reason then with the third edition that we got a lot of feedback, also what we can implement in our handbook. And we did implement it in both versions, in the German one and in the English one. And the next step was this year when we were approached by Italy to work together with them to make an Italian version, which we were very proud. But to be honest, I could make a reading session, but I don't know what is the content of it, to be honest.
In Italian.
If it's really, it's just a little bit Italian. And now we're working and finishing the French version, which we were working together very close with the Francophone Forum from Switzerland. It was a really great working together, and it should be finished at the beginning of October.
Perfect. So these PCert handbooks, when done, right? I mean, like you can follow also these QR codes and so on. You can find them for free, right? So it's just a free download, and you can have it. You can read it through. Even me, as a university teacher, I'm using that as a material for my students because it's great. This body of knowledge, basically, what it is. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing the insights, Christian. But now maybe back to one fundamental question, because all of this development of knowledge and so on, that happens obviously in this German-speaking working group. And well, somehow that seems to be very productive, very, very positive and so on. But what is the magic recipe behind? Maybe Sarah, you're, well, leading this working group, so maybe you're able to tell.
I am head of the working group, of the German working group for certification. I'm not taking any credits or merits for the amazing PCert handbook. But within our working group, we are a very active working group consisting of Germans, of Austrians for a few years now, and from training providers, from university professors to public teachers. And we are working actively together and also trying to develop more and more to establishing standards. But everything would have been only possible or is only possible with the support of buildingSMART Germany, of our chapter, because due to buildingSMART Germany, there are full-time employees who are supporting and helping and getting a bit order into our chaos.
So maybe for you, Georg, so that you also find your role here. So what are you doing for a living?
Well, I'm saying I'm the product manager, and that's the very important thing. What you guys did in the last years became a product 5 years ago, and it deserves professional product management. And it is a business opportunity for the chapter, for buildingSMART Germany. It's a business opportunity for buildingSMART International. If you might know that we share 50-50 all the income and the revenue for that. And it's a business opportunity for the registered training providers. We have 2 of them here. We have the 3 of them. Bavarian Chamber of Commerce, TU Wien, and DEUBIM, they all, EduBIM, they all training providers. And for you, to the figures Cornelius showed you, and Sarah was saying 12,000, it's 12,102 as of Friday. Opportunities for leads for further education programs. And what we have achieved is that like 70 training providers means an income, or means at least a turnover of 70,000 euro per year. And with 2,000 people attending the foundation program, it's another 120,000 euro. Sums it up to 210,000 euro that are available to develop the program further and to pay my salary.
Employees, yes,
so,
of course.
it's important for all the chapter that haven't joined, see your opportunities, how to start the program. It is product management at its best. You need to talk to the industry bodies. You need to talk to your local training providers. You need to talk to your local universities and your chambers and your VDI in Germany. And then there is a big chance to develop the professional certification program. And for further programs, we will talk about on the tomorrow, I think, and on the booth of where Su Chen is actually soliciting people that want to start, how to start with the buildingSMART International PCert program.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So I guess this is one of the most important key takeouts as chapters. Well, see your opportunity and make it happen, because this is really, I mean, like, it's not for fun, it's for a good reason. It has purpose, and this is really important to understand. So now taking one step a bit like back, because we also have the future generation of engineers. And well, if you remember at the presentation in Singapore, we have been announcing that there is something new, the discount for students. The idea behind was basically that we try our best to make students getting this certification as early and also as cheap as possible. It can't be for free, because the free certification is not really valuable. So we try to really drop the price as much as we can, and at least we can give you now an update that we have meanwhile 380 discounted exams conducted for students, and the numbers are quickly climbing. So maybe asking here the university professor in our row. So Christian, what is your experience now with these discounted exams? What is your take on it?
It definitely helps, and it raised also the amount of students which are taking the course. Before we had about 30 students each semester, and now we're about 60 to 70 students each semester just taking the course.
Yeah, perfect. So this obviously works. So if anybody here from academia is also joining, please get in touch with us. It's valid for the eligible institutions. So we're talking about universities, but also high schools and so on, right? Just get in touch with us, and then we can let you know basically if your institution is eligible to apply this exam. And then it gets a lot easier for students to get this certification, which makes a lot of sense. All right, now we have been talking about young people in the future, right? But now let's talk about the future of professional certification. I mean, like you might have seen this pyramid already again. It nicely shows the journey of, well, somebody taking certification, right? And it starts with the knowledge-based stuff like in foundation, then you have the uptake in management, and then you end up with applied learning in practitioner. But I heard that there is something new in the pipeline. Sarah, would you give us an update?
And I'm really happy to announce another milestone, because as diverse our construction industry or construction digitality, it was named, I think, is, as diverse are our fields of working, and buildingSMART is still a user community. And we were asking users, and we suggested to give hints of where we should develop next. And I'm really happy to announce and to launch a new profile, which is professional certification infrastructure.
Right, everything is in the making for infrastructure. We're getting ready to get things, well, approved and ready to roll out so that the first exams can be expected early in 26. So this is a major milestone that we're taking, but basically we're not stopping from here. There is even more in the pipeline, Sarah.
We did a research within users in mostly German, but also international ones. Which topics do you see buildingSMART to cover in education, qualification, certification? So we are really working on and are already having work in progress stance. On the one hand, it's CDE management. Thank you, Italia. It obviously is very interesting for other chapters, other countries to get certified in this field. And another thing is a word, and it's not only a word, it's something which is important for us all, is BIM and sustainability. So be excited. Next year is coming soon.
Indeed, and we from the steering committee, we actually just updated a strategic approach, basically, that makes these kind of developments happen. We call that chapter-led innovation. And if you want to understand more about these things, so how that development works, how to contribute, how to actually, as a chapter, as a training provider, as a student, or whoever is a stakeholder for the professional certification program, we have this workshop that Georg was already actually indicating. And that's going to take place tomorrow from 11 to 12:30 in room Leipzig. Well, seats are limited. It's already, well, it will be crowded. However, that's good to see. And it's going to be a workshop. So it's really about basically to get everybody up to date about, well, yet again, maybe quickly what PCert is about, but then specifically to talk about how to get actually ramp up your professional certification, however you are using it actually the best possible way. So here again, it's learning from each other, it's better together. This is one thing, but as already said, we have also our booth just right over there. You might have already seen it in the first coffee break. So please visit this booth. And actually, to make that even more attractive and to get some noise around this booth, tomorrow in the afternoon, Tuesday, 4:30, we have a special action over there. It's called PCert. And yeah, you can feel the irony. It's not an official certification, but it's unique and it's very, very limited. So, but if you want to start actually your Berlin evening there with a refresher, with a fresh beer or whatsoever, then you can come there and just visit this booth. The bad thing about it is you will have to actually show that you have some knowledge. So you will have to answer a few questions, but then, well, you get an immediate reward. And well, specifically, those certification badges, we have them in a limited amount available as stickers. And we only have them here in Berlin, right? They will potentially never come ever again. So save them. All right, so this was an introduction of the professional certification. Thank you so much. So we're just quickly setting up here the stage again. All right, because as already said, this was just the first part of our today's session, and we just continue with the second part. It's not about professional certification anymore. Now we're switching slightly, but it's still about learning together. It's about sharing best practices. And at the heart of this best practice sharing, of course, we have our use case management service. You might remember from some presentations, and today, it's about to show basically how this is used in real life. And we have two use cases are going to be presented, first of all, by Christoph Eichler, who is the CEO of vBuild at the airport in Vienna and also steering committee member of buildingSMART Airport Room, and Stefan Hauer, head of project platform and data structure, also at Vienna Airport. And they both going to show us, now how they use case management in their everyday practice. Please, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Cornelius. So now to something completely different. We switch to aviation industry. No, how is it called right now? We already got a reminder in the last industry. This is not the right word, but I forgot about how it's called correctly. So we want to talk about data reliability. And as we already mentioned, we are from Vienna Airport. I am working in the part of the airport, which is the operator. Stefan is working at the airport's part, which is the innovator. And our day-by-day business actually cares a lot about data reliability. And what we want to explain is how we can improve this kind of work with governance and what is the use case management, what is the possibility of the use case management in this matter. So, if you talk about data and if you talk about how we get data actually, we see something like this. Day by day. This data is arrived as usually by IFC files. But what is the problem about this data usually? The data quality usually doesn't fit to our requirements. And this is usually the thing Stefan is working about.
Yes. Hello also from my side. Thank you very much. Today we are trying to do that in a kind of dialogue. So let's see how this works out. But the problem what we are receiving in practice is that, as you said, Christoph, that the data we got from IC files is inconsistent. We cannot use it simply. This is due to that data, especially in IFC, is wrongly classified. Properties are misused because of lack of knowledge of IFC. So basically, yes, as an operator, we're receiving data, but unfortunately, we cannot use it as we want to.
And please note the footmark here. So, of course, we have ERIs. Of course, we have IDS files providing to the planners to give them the requirements to fulfill all of our expectations and so on. That doesn't matter at the end. At the end, we get information declared like that. I forgot about declared like that. And this is not something which is helping us. So why is that important? Usually at airports, we have huge projects. This is, for example, our last big project here, Terminal South Extension in Vienna, 500 million project for our fellows from Asia. This is a very small project for you. In Europe, this is a big project. And if you want to build a project like this, you have a very complex environment. So, for example, the neighbor building here is our Terminal 3. This is from 2011. The environment in the ground is also very important to coordinate the piles in the ground. You have the planning data from the actual project, and you have also old project data from 2011 again. All of these informations needs to fit together because these are very complex buildings. The story height, for example, is not constant. There's a lot of difference in height. There's a lot of equipment which needs to get connected. And if you want to do these kind of projects, the quality of data is very important, and the quality of each project doesn't matter for itself. It's very important to have a common data quality in all the projects together. That's the most important thing. So we don't talk about data quality in projects. We talk about data collaboration, and this is the most important thing if you organize huge operation projects.
The problem currently is that project boundaries are not always model boundaries, unfortunately. So we have to think about collaboration of data.
Very important point. So big question is actually how we should get data right now. So this is how usually the declaration of data should look like, actually. The data set actually we need to organize has a lot of different requirements we provide to the planners, and they usually have to deliver us data in that quality. But actually, what is the most important thing we need to care about if we want to have stuff like this?
First of all, the data must be machine readable. Machine readable means it has to follow a structure, a standard, and then we as an operator can work with it. It has to be that machine readable itself means that you understand IFC schema itself. So it has to be well structured, and you have to have a knowledge about IFC, so what you are delivering basically.
The most important thing here is actually that these qualities usually has to considered from users and from software. And this is something actually where the problem is starting. So, but to explain where's the deeper problem, we need to get more in detail. So if we have here, for example, these piping, and we have a closer look to the values we get delivered with these pipelines, but I think this is your part, I noticed.
So basically we have, from practice point of view, we have in general two main problem sources. The one is, as I said, really the understanding of IFC schema. We receive a lot of models or IFC content which you experience that the deliverable doesn't know what he's doing, basically. So this starts with that you get the model with a lot of extensions, but they double the data because they do not know that actually IFC allows you to hand over this information as requested. The second thing is what you said is here in the example with the units. I don't know who of you knows about that problem. So a value in an IFC model, probably, yeah, it's correct, it's 500, but what is the meaning? Due to the standard, yes, you can say in kind of LED, it's watt, but what kilowatt, joule per second, whatever.
So the number for itself doesn't say so much for us. The unit is very important. And if you get models only with numbers, but not with units, all the content is not completely workable for you. So you can't trust in the data, you can't rely on the data. And this is a very, very important point. And again, it's not so much regarding the users, it's also regarding the software, because this is a topic which I think increases in the last years, that organizations like our airports start using these BIM informations very intensively. And so we try to combine all the different standards we have already at the airport, all the different technologies with these data. So for that reason, we need to care about the content, and we need to make the content really machine readable. That's the reason this is very important. So because we noticed that this is a problem in the industry, we start working on a solution for that. There is a guy in Austria, a certified trader, we heard already from the PCert program. Austria also implement this PCert program very strongly. We have also certified trainers. One of the certified trainers is René Holzer, and he started to implementing a structure how to organize these problems, how to address these problems. And we're starting with these governance guidelines for IFC, and these guidelines address exactly how we can work with planners or with deliverers of information to improve the quality of the models.
And the first area, as I said, is if we have to extend IFC data, and yes, we have to do that in practice, we have to follow rules. So my main rule is really, the data must be machine readable. This means we have to follow naming conventions. It must be structured. The units must be correct, and companies should avoid to just copy paste from other projects without thinking if this is reliable to the project or not.
The second part is caring about quantity and units. Most important thing here is that the units needs to get combined with values. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. And you have to use the already existing unit declarations which are existing in the IFC scheme. So this is not something which is actually not declared. All for these things, all the solutions are actually available. That's a very important thing. So it has to be only fully implemented from users and from the software benchers.
What we don't have to forget is about BSDD. In my opinion, BSDD helps the users to understand IFC schema better, I would say, because due to the standard, international standard in terms, the international standard of terms that you understand using IFC better.
That's correct, because if we talk actually about use case management and modularized LOIs, requesting the requirements of different use cases, we also think about how to organize these extensions. And this is where BSDD is the optimal solution for that. And if we look about, or if we have a look about the life cycle of a typical project, which is starting from initiation and going up to operation and later on to demolition, we can have a better understanding maybe how this should work. So usually we have many different use cases fitting to the different requirements of a project. So all of these use cases usually have to be declared in the use case management if you are a pleasant operator as us. And all these different use cases usually also have declared requirements. These requirements are small pieces of LOIs which only describe the requirements regarding the models you want to exchange in that use case. If you fulfill all of these use cases to project needs, usually you don't need all these use cases for every project. So this is something like a collection. You put all of these LOI pieces together to have a common LOI for the project. This is something you did all the day, usually.
But this is where use case management from buildingSMART helps us, because with use case management, you can really simplify what you need for a specific view. With use case management, you are more or less guided to develop your use case systematically. And therefore, it's comparable. For us as an operator, it's very easy that if whatever project requirements we have, we can use different use cases to meet our requirements in the end.
Exactly. And if you only work with your own use cases, then for sure the LOI fits together because you work in your complete LOI scope. But if you want to use the use case descriptions of others and their requirements, then the most important thing is to have this governance about the data structure description to combine these requirements of different use cases to fulfill your setting with not developing all of these use cases from others by your own again. So it's also a question of interoperability, not only about models, but also about use cases and requirements. And
this is the correct word in the next slide, I guess. The interoperability, you said, if we want to extend IFC models, we have to take care about interoperability. Sorry, hard word. Basically, both sides, if we extend IFC data from another data source, both sides has to know what they are talking about.
Absolutely. And it's not only about use cases. It's also about how we can combine different industry standards. Actually, inside the airport world, but also in the whole industry, in the operation industry, a lot of people talk about the combination of AAS and of IFC to have something like a connection between your building operation system and between your models for operation. This helps you a lot to improve the quality in operation because you can easily standardized address all the equipment in your buildings. And for that, again, it's very, very important that you have data you can rely and that and also the other industry standards can rely of the data on your models. And if you have rules for that, it's making these things much easier. And it's more or less a guarantee that stuff like this can work at the end.
And that's why we need these government guidelines, right?
Absolutely. to come to an end and conclude, most important thing we want to address actually is that governance and reliability belong together. And if we think about things like that, it's much easier for us to operate, to work with different results from others, to interact between use case descriptions from us, from others, and so on, but also to operate between different industry standards.
Exactly. With the use case management, we have a strong platform where we can define our requirements, especially for this specific view. We have a basis for further projects.
Mm-hmm.
There can be compared with others and easily distributed using the platform.
And most importantly, because operation is actually 80% of our daily business, in operation, this is the only possibility to combine these industry technologies. And I think this is more or less also the topic we need to more focus on, how we can use these models and all the content in models in operation, not only in design and construction. I think, we have a last point. The most important thing here as well is that for sure this standard, this governance for IFC isn't ready. This is something we would like to ask all the people here in the audience also to join these activities. We are sure that there are great other ideas which should be also part of this activity, and to think about how this could be transmitted or deployed into the whole community of openBIM. So thank you very much. Hope this was interesting for you.
Thank you so much, you both guys. And we just handshake actually the next presenter here on the stage. And it's going to switch slightly the domains. We're now going basically, come over here, Cyrill. We're switching from the domain to healthcare. So this is Cyrill Weber, consultant for BIM and lifecycle data at Amstein Waltert, active contributor to buildingSMART Switzerland. So Cyrill, the stage is yours.
Thank you. And also welcome from my side today. I'm here to talk about creating digital value, the BIM use cases for the healthcare infrastructure sector. I'm representing today the IHS, which is an association for hospital and the infrastructure hospital in Switzerland. The Swiss Association for Hospital sees itself as further development of infrastructure-related topics in the hospital and healthcare sector. The IHS was founded in 1977 and counts today up to more than 400 people, which are from technical managers, specialists from the hospital environment, and also the leading companies in this sector. The IHS is grouped in Switzerland into 3 groups, which are the Romandie Ticino, the Central and East, and which are also divided into 4 specialist groups that are improving topics like BIM, building service engineering, the medical technology and medical informatics, and also project management. So, what is also keys of the IHS? The IHS aims to improve the quality, efficiency, and sustainability of hospital buildings and their operations. The IHS promotes also the collaboration between hospital operators, planners, clients, and technology providers, which advocates the use of modern methods such as BIM, lean construction, and also the lifecycle data management. Other key concerns of the IHS is also the establishment of standards and the promotion of innovations, which affect the entire life cycle of hospital infrastructures, going from planning through the whole realization process till the operation at the end. Another part is also the development of different use cases, which is a strategic step to make specific requirements of hospital construction visible and to drive digitalization into a targeted way. One part that I want to talk today about are these use cases that I've already said. We at the hospital, and I think also in other parts, have use cases in different core areas, which are as the following, going from planning through the coordination, through the whole prefabrication, to the construction process, and up to the operation. These use cases that we have here are designed as practical tools for the application of the BIM method, and the structure, as we see it here, also facilitates the classification, control, and comparison of these use cases with similar content. And as you also can see, in every of these 5 core areas, we have several use cases that are developed or are in development. And what I want to show here, and the next part is, in the last year, already have been 11 use cases being developed in collaboration with the Lucerne Cantonal Hospital and other partners. And all these use cases are published on the use case management platform. So if you head over to the use case page, you can set the filters for the organizations to the IHS, and you will find an overview about from these 11 use cases. First of all, there is a short introduction, so you can see what kind of use cases have been developed, in which core areas are they suited, and afterwards, all the 11 use cases that have been developed. What I have to say here, the use cases are at the moment only available in German, so if you don't speak German, it's maybe a little bit hard to understand. So I brought one little example of a use case that had been developed here today, just a short overview. It's the use case of the BIM integrated acceptance of works. It is a particular example of a use case which describes the whole consistent and transparent acceptance process from ordering through planning and execution till the handover and operation. All the requirements, as you can see, are recorded early in a digital platform, a common data environment, short CDE, and documented, verified throughout the entire project lifecycle. As you can see here, it's a short overview about how the phases work by us in Switzerland. We start in phase 21 with some feasibility studies, go through the main design and constructions phases till we have at the end then the operation. And if we go further through this process, at the end we have the acceptance milestone, which marks the transition from the operation and initiates the whole issue management for the operational business. With this, we have a high level of transparency and digital support, which leads to greater efficiency for all parties. By providing these use cases, the aim is also to improve the shared understanding of hospital technology within the network and standardize requirements and for contractors and optimize also the project delivery. So with that said, we go to the long-term goals of the IHS. So what are the long-term goals? It's also to continuously expand and deepen the landscape of all these use cases. Next of all, we have collaborations with associations, universities, professional organizations, and that is all to be systematically strengthened over time. A special focus is also placed on the interoperability of use cases and their integration into digital platforms, like CDEs, for example. All these planned measures include the joint development of new use cases with partner associations, for example, and also establishing the use case management into the Swiss healthcare sector. Therefore, it also needs some training that needs to be conducted and some professional events, and also integrating these use cases into the tendering, construction, and operating process. And with that said, we aim to create an ecosystem for knowledge, standards, and innovation for the benefit of all in healthcare construction. And to the last part, all these documented processes we have here should create some clarity, foster all the collaboration and efficient implementation of complex infrastructure projects, the continuous development of networking of use cases will help ensure quality and sustainable in the healthcare sector over the long term. And also special thanks to the collaboration with the buildingSMART Switzerland, a valuable foundation has been created that offers great potential for the IHS. And lastly, I just can say with that, we aim to send a strong signal for the digital future of all in hospital construction. Thank you. And if you have any further questions or need some more information, here are our contacts.
Thank you, Cyrill. Okay. All right. So this was our second part, and we're about actually to jump directly in our third part. We are now switching basically from practice to policy, and that has been a topic that has been accompanying us for, well, quite some time. I guess in the last summits and so on, it was always an important topic because digital product passport is something that is at the heart of the European Union sustainability strategy. So it's very important. Today, we have two speakers with us. First of all, Oscar Nieto, who is policy officer at the European Commission. Unfortunately, he didn't make it here to Berlin, but he did send us a video message. And I guess we can play that now.
Hello, good morning. I'm Oscar Nieto. I'm policy officer in DG Grow Unit H1, and I'm in charge of the implementation of the construction products regulation and one of the persons that is involved in the horizontal development of digital product passport within the EU regulatory framework. Thank you for the invitation to participate in your event. Unfortunately, I was not able to be with you today, but we have the chance to have somebody with a lot of expertise in this field who was also involved in some of our projects related to the implementation of the digital product passport for construction products. So Lars is one of the experts that was supporting our feasibility study for the DPP under the CPR, and he will also provide the point of view not only of the regulatory framework, but also from the company that is already working in this field. Having said that, I have to thank you for your interest in the European legislation, and I would like to also mention that we are working hard in my unit, but also together with the industry and also the experts in standardization to make sure that all the information that will be delivered under the new construction products regulation is fully digitalized, but also it is done in a way that is compatible and works with building information modeling. Having said that, I think I only have to wish you a very successful event. And of course, as we already discussed with the organizers, if you have specific questions that could not be replied during the event, please don't hesitate to come back to us and we will do our best to reply your questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you to Oscar. Although he cannot be with us, at least he took actually all my work from me because he already introduced you. But welcome on stage, Lars Fredenlund, co-builder of, CEO of Co-Builder. So the stage is yours, please.
Thank you. So I'm here now to present the construction product regulation that will now have a digital element. So I led work, as Oscar said, on implementation on the technical standards, the framework of digital product passports, and I'll be presenting now much of what I've been talking about in the product domain for 12 years, 15 years soon. Yeah. But I'm very proud that this now is regulation, and I would also like to say that this regulation is, of course, European, but we see that also other regions around the world are implementing this framework, and it's a horizontal framework. And now I'll be talking about construction. There are other domains like textiles, but this is construction and the regulation for construction products. So first of all, what are we talking about? So in Europe, we have construction works. So we build railways, roads, buildings, and we have products that are used to build railway, roads, and buildings. And this framework is connected, and this is a very important topic for this BIM community to understand what is this, because then you have to understand, and this is key. So what is CPR? It provides an open market. So that means that if you have a product, you have an open market via something called CE mark. So with the CE mark, you can sell your products. In Europe, when Europe was founded, the European Union was founded, we had harmonization of standards, of product standards. So that meant that if you manufacture a product, you can deliver it to the market. This harmonization process went on, but it has slowed down a little bit. And this is one of the key things, that you need more harmonized standards to get an open market. And the other one is very important because it was related to all the previous presentations. A common technical language. A common technical language that are used on construction site A, B, and C for architects, engineers, contractors, manufacturers, everyone. And it's mandatory under law. So the important part of this technical language to become digital is in real life, I'll explain later, to use different data sets in design so that you can actually manufacture and deliver. And this meets like a one-to-one. But the important part is this connection. The other one is that there are requirements for fire, sound, stability. And now also you have a point 8 here, which is sustainability. So that means that today, when you look in the Annex 2, we are adding, as a part of the regulation, sustainability, meaning a product will have, let's say, fire characteristics. If we take a window, fire, sound, but also carbon or use of water. So environmental characteristics. And all of this is going to be in this framework delivered via something called digital product passports. But this change is important because it also mandates, what I will show later, data carriers. So if you want to sell, let's say I'm a manufacturer, a global manufacturer, and if you want to sell your products in Europe, there is no market for you without this digital product passport. There's no market. And I think that one is a wake-up call for a lot of actors. And what is required today, we have something called a declaration of performance, which is basically declaring your products its essential characteristics in a PDF document. And this is going to be digitized. And our work has been on the work that we have been doing in CEN 442 on this BIM standardization to recommend standards on how this can be digitized, moving away from PDF to data. So this is just an example, but each and every product sold on the market has to prove, or some people use their certification. These are called notified bodies that actually, in this case, test that the product actually can deliver on what you ask for. So these are in a European framework of test standards. I wrote properties in BIM because I think it's important to understand that essential characteristics and properties in BIM is the same thing, meaning as a part of the digital product passport, in this case, you see this. That means that if you ask for something and use the same reference, and here we're going to talk about data dictionaries later on, but that is key. So then we can kind of have a common technical language. On the timeline. So we have done a study on how to set it up. So the system itself, the DPP system, will be set up by end of 26, 27. This timeline is a little bit floating, but it's there. The key part here is that you will have to provide under this framework for the different product categories, which is decided by a prioritization. So the one which is most carbon heavy is coming first. And then there is a prioritization of what product category. So it's an implementation step by step, if you understand what I'm saying. And this is maybe where I think this is an educated audience. I think understanding this, that they wrote in the regulation itself that they are going to create a European data dictionary. So that means that there will be machine readable data sets. I don't know all the words. We could talk about, so BIM objects could be a word, data sets, properties. In the US, they call it attributes. There are many ways of saying it, but it means interoperability. So there's an API, you call it, and you get the object data. And it's from a governmental point of view. And of course, each and every DPP will be built upon the same framework. So that's a data dictionary, and there's also, let's say, a template there. But that may, and I've been talking to Autodesk, Nemetschek Group, and I think for the BIM community, it's just important now to understand what this is. Because this is an important thing for construction, rail, and roads. And buildingSMART is much about that. So, the concept, and I have been working a lot on getting GS1 and buildingSMART together. I would say on the manufacturing side, it's at least twice or 3 times the size as, let's say, design. It's much, much, much bigger. And this is connected to data carriers, so barcodes or QR codes. It's a way of identifying the product. And this technology also opens up a lot of opportunities. And this is implemented in Europe under something called Eco-Design Directive. So it's horizontal. So we will have it on textiles and on construction. So basically you scan it, and then you have your passport. And from that, you can build, with technology now, a lot of very good features. And you can build, of course, from that, a lot of things. So the big question here is, how can we make this connect to the buildingSMART standards? And I do know how. And there is a very important connection here. On that, I have been talking a lot about data dictionaries and data templates. The standards, and also I think it was addressed here, data governance. So let's say, how do you design a hospital and an airport? Do you use the same properties in those 2 projects, in those 2 domains? These standards help you to make sure that you do that. So that's actually, one is on governance, on how to create properties in interconnected data dictionaries. The other one is data templates. And this is a very important framework, and this was what we have been working with the Commission on to recommend. And this is where they are now on building it. So in the first standardization request for cement, it's in there. So it's coming. So our work was to develop suggestions on how to set up such a system. So let's say if US wants to set it up, China wants to set it up. So this is the policy side, how to set it up. So this was alternative 1, is a centralized system. It's set up by the Commission. So manufacturers go to one actor, and then either you connect via API or you can upload easy via Excel files. It should be easy for the SMEs, easy to deliver data, and the manufacturer is responsible of that data forever. This is alternative one. All the alternatives you see have a connection to the same data dictionary, so where you have governance, you have versions of templates, versions of properties, and all these things. Option 2 is service providers. So that's where you as a manufacturer, you go to the one that you select. And then this alternative, all of these alternatives, you have to have backup. Alternative 3, this is where it stays with manufacturers. What we see with this alternative is that it is somewhat difficult for small actors. So we did a summary in our report, and this is the summary. And alternative 2 with the service providers. So you go to a service provider, and that advantage is interoperability. So that starts with, how can I connect to IFC? It's an easy task. It's easy. You can do it. But then you have to go to service providers that can actually deliver those kind of services. So most probably it's going to be option 2, but of course this is a delegated act, so the DPP system itself, so it's up to the commission. I think maybe this slide is more important to this audience, because this has been my challenge over 15 years to explain IFC reaction to fire. So how do we actually deliver, let's call it well-structured format for delivering in this world properties? I write here essential characteristics because fire is essential for a building, so that's why it's called essential. But in the BIM community, it's called properties. How do we model that? How do we update that? Who made it? What is the data type? What is the unit? What is the measure? All these things. All of that is now changed in this standardization process. So now the standardization process is digitized, so it's like a template here. So it's prepared to be digitized by the Commission developing a European data dictionary. And again, it's supported by these standards, this framework of standards. So that digital product passport, as Oscar said, can be interoperable with BIM. So it can be used. And then we don't have to sit and discuss what is the right property for reaction to fire on the window. There's no discussion anymore. And I think that will be a help for marketplaces, for governments, for architects, for engineers, for everyone, so that they move away from Excel and trying to invent their data model wherever they are. And specifically, I marked the buildingSMART logo there. I think it's important, and this is maybe a challenge for buildingSMART. How, in real life, does this connect? I would like someone to come and ask me that question, because I can answer. So I think that's key, but the interoperable part is here, and it's going to be exciting to follow what's happening moving forward. So the conclusions: CPR will become fully, let's call it, digitized. It's new, has never happened. Have you seen an implementation which is digital? This is coming, exciting. Common technical language, same way of talking about it. One very important part has been machine readability. So we can have a structured data set across project and actors. I think that's massively important. Standardization work will deliver the technical content. So this is the process. And it will move a little bit slow, guys, but it will come. And it has started already now. Interconnected data dictionary will grant interoperability.
I stress the word interoperable, interconnected. And DPP will become the one-stop shop for end users. So that means that if you are someone, if you want information in your facility management or for LCA calculation or whatever it might be, this is the place to get it, your passport. That's the place to get it. And I think just to understand that, that means, how should I act? So with that, I would just like to say thank you. And hopefully it has been educational about what the European Commission now is doing on the construction product regulation. Thank you.
Thank you, Lars. Well, the purpose was to learn something, so education sounds really good. Perfect. So, but last but not least, we have our last part of this session today, and we're going to switch slightly the focus, and we're going to look at from open data to production flow. So the idea is that we do not focus specifically on data exchange, but actually what happens if the information flows into real life projects. And we have two people with us to exactly, it doesn't click. Here we are. Okay. And we have two people with us, actually. One very well-known face, Birgitta Schock, chairwoman of buildingSMART Switzerland and architect. And we have a new face with us, and this is Roberto Arbulu, senior vice president at Strategic Project Solutions, one of the global thought leaders on project production management. So the stage is yours.
Thank you. So thank you so much, Cornelius, for the introduction and for having us here. So, of course, my face is familiar, but you will see a new face, Roberto. And before we lose too much time, let's jump into the middle of the presentation. So we have accomplished a lot in relation to BIM over the last couple of years, from the use of advanced technology to the development of standards that allows us to be more efficient when it comes to product design. We should celebrate that, but at the same time, we need to recognize that the journey is not yet over. We continue to expose the dynamics and the complexity of production in the project world. By production, we both mean, how do we do the work? Either on a like fabricate, assemble, transport, install buildings, components, and commission system. So we have data, we have processes, and we have people. But unless we connect them through a production thinking and system, our efforts risk to become fragmented and costly. Our industry stands at a kind of a crossroad. We have standards like IFC that have shaped digital collaboration across the built environment, but we have a world around us who is changing dramatically fast. On one hand, we must remain to our tradition and prepare in shaping the framework that allows innovation to scale. On the other hand, we make the market moving forward, and this is fast, and the demand on us are no longer just about structured data. We have faced the challenge today of integrated, structured with disrupted, distributed, and unstructured data across all disciplines and systems. And this is where production systems comes into play. As the missing link between, it allows us to connect the data, the processes, and the people into a system of flow instead of fragments. Within this link, many digital efforts risk becoming just another cost. We know that from our daily life. Or worse, it's said to be a wasted investment. With it, we can create value. So we start today to explore a little bit what is this about. And we like to dig a little bit deeper into three questions we'd like to present and discuss with you. First, is there a structured and a scientific approach that allows all of us, the engineering, but also the construction, to augment our efforts in production project design with better or more robust meanings of looking at project production? If so, what is it? How are others doing this? What are they applying today? How are they benefiting? And third, what do we see coming? What is the future? So let's get started, Roberto.
Thank you, Birgitta. Good afternoon already. So we're going to spend a few minutes talking about what we mean by production and make sure we're on the same page. We have a lot of experience in the room, and I would like to start with this. In the engineering and construction industry, we are enamored with the schedules, but the schedules do not represent production systems. And production systems do not represent schedules, right? And so when we think about production, right, the rest of our presentation today is going to focus here on the right, okay? We're not going to talk about the schedules. We're going to talk about how we produce in engineering, fabrication, assembly, construction, or installation and commissioning. There's nothing wrong about the schedules, and please don't get me wrong, okay? They have a purpose. From a production perspective, the schedules are important because they set the demand that the production system should respond to. If the production system, what is here on the left of me, and your right, if the production system doesn't have the capacity to produce what the schedule needs, we will experience schedule delays. If the production system does have the capacity to deliver what the schedule wants, we're good, or potentially, we might even have the opportunity to accelerate, okay? And so schedules and production systems are actually go together, but they don't represent the same. So Birgitta talked about data. And the previous presentations talk about data as well in the context of what we're digitally building. But what does it mean in terms of production, right? And so rather than going from left to right, let's go backwards, right? So as professionals, we do want to have access to actionable insights. But for that, we need data, and we need a way of analyzing that data, okay? Not rocket science. These days, we can use data science, or we can use AI, or the means. But we need the data. The question is, what generates the production data? The schedules? Where is that coming from? Right? Not the 3D data, the 3D model data. That's not what we mean, of course, okay? And so we have these two choices. Obviously, our message is that we want the data to come from the actual production system, because that is the reality. If we want to take actionable insights, we need this to come from the production system. Okay? Physical or non-physical, as Birgitta highlighted. So, without the intent of making this complex, but just to graphically represent, when we think about production systems, it's not only what and who does the work that is represented by these blue boxes, but it's also what happens when the work travels through the system and when the work gets stuck in between two operations, okay? In the construction industry, I'm a civil engineer. I've been working like you guys a lot on construction over the years. And we have a very strong, in our industry, a very strong focus on productivity. We love it. There's nothing wrong about that. I'm not proposing that we stop it. But let me propose the following. There is a big difference in making these blue operations as productive as we can versus making the production system as productive as we can. Right? They are not synonymous. Which one do you need? Which one do you want? We propose to you is that it's much more efficient to look at the system to be much more productive. Okay? Not at the individual operations. And if we want that, we will have to acknowledge that the work getting stuck in the system has a pretty high price to pay. Because things will take much longer to move through the system. It doesn't matter if we use all the technology we want, right? So this production thinking is framed this way, okay? And we're going to share with you a framework that it took us, I would say, several years to develop, and to be fully transparent, a little bit of learning by doing, as we optimize production systems, as we map them out and trying to get more throughput out of them. And what we learn is the following, that if we are trying to reduce cost, compress time, or optimize the use of cash, we have 5 levers we can play with. The good news is that we have 5, and the bad news is that we have 5. Only 5, okay? So let me elaborate a bit more. In the buildingSMART movement, 30 years, which is quite impressive, we have concentrated quite a lot on the product design, and we should continue doing so, okay? And we have also touched a little bit on the process design, or the way we produce deliverables, let's say in engineering, or we physically produce things, okay? But there are other 3 levers that we might be a bit blind in most cases, and what impact they have on the output of production systems. One is what contributes to the capacity of the system. And by the way, resources and capacity are not synonymous. Okay? I can increase the capacity of a system without adding more resources. I repeat, I can increase the capacity of a system without adding more resources. Okay? Inventory, we don't mean physical stocks of things or stocks of information, but there's something else in inventory which is known as work in process, which I will come back to it in a minute. And variability. There's no a single production system in this planet that is not exposed to variability, and we know it very, very well. Okay? And we cannot get rid of it. If there's someone that comes and tell you that you can fully eliminate variability, they're lying to you. We don't live in that world. We need to be prepared to deal with it. Okay? We don't live in that world. So, let's peel the onion a bit more. The first 2 levers, I'm not going to spend too much time. There's a lot of efforts these days on mapping standard processes on how we do things. Even if what the process produces is not something that is physically identical, or even the same type of deliverable in engineering. Okay? These are the ones that really we're struggling with, I believe, my opinion, in our industry. And if you look at the chart on the left, what that chart is telling us, there are actually 2 charts in one. Okay? This is extremely important. So follow me on this. If we have a system, I'm going to explain the throughput and the work in process, or WIP. And it's not work in progress, by the way. Work in progress comes from earned value management, not from production. Work in process means the amount of work that is currently being processed in a system, that is stuck, that has not come out yet. So what it means, if you look at, again, the vertical on the left and the horizontal, it gets to a point where we put more work in the system and there's no more work coming out of it. Do you follow me on this? Okay? I repeat, we put more work in the system and there's no more coming out of it. But this is what we normally do, right? When I say we, the global engineering and construction industry. I have seen it day in, day out, week in, week out, right? The other one, WIP and cycle time, means that there's a trade-off. If we want to put more work in the system, what is going to happen is that the time for a deliverable or something physical to be produced will take longer and it will grow exponentially. So when we put more work in systems, don't be surprised if you have to wait more time for the work to come out. And the other one on the right is the more we use the capacity of a system, our cycle times will go up very, very quickly. Now, you might say, so what? These are laws not different than this one, which we call gravity. There's nothing we can do about this. We, as humans, we have learned how to deal with it. In production systems, we call this operation science, because these are laws that we cannot change. We need to learn how to deal with them and understand the implications of this. So, you might wonder, what is this? I have had the opportunity, a very unique opportunity, to work with many professionals, as all of us, in different settings, and do a quiz. And this is what came out. Okay? These are professionals like all of us. And my point is, our point is, that in the engineering and construction industry, we are not on the same page. If this becomes the opinions of multiple members of a project team, some of them are going to optimize this way, some of them are going to optimize this way, but we're not moving in the same direction. It's a noodle soup, as I call it. Right? We need to do something. And so Birgitta and I today want to propose to you that we pay much more attention to the way we produce and what it means to us as an industry. So how do I use all these ideas and what do we do with this? And I'm going to move a bit faster because we're probably running out of time. So other organizations around the world, number one, have been taking production, not only BIM and the interoperability and standards very seriously, and they're actually modeling, virtually modeling, the behavior of their production processes, either physical or non-physical, using very sophisticated tools. And we can do discrete event simulation, we can do analytical modeling, and get results like this, where every single dot here is a different production strategy. Almost like if you had different designs for buildings, this is the process view of it. Make sense? Where we can say, look, obviously, the one over here, I don't know if I have a pointer, I don't think I do, but that option is taking us 300 and almost 400 days, and here we have another one that is about 150, and we can compress time and reduce cost at the same time. Okay? Now, we didn't do this with Excel, because it will take us years. We need sophisticated tools that we have available today. Okay? And we can model the behavior of the systems and determine what is the most optimal one. This is an engineering example that Birgitta and I decided to bring to your attention just to illustrate purposely. It's not a production system that is a physical one. It's a non-physical one. And this engineering team needed to produce about 1,700 engineering deliverables, right? And they need to do piping, engineering, The process on the top is a bit more complex than the one below because the top requires some stress test or testing to be done, right? So through these processes, okay, you have 1,700 deliverables that are sort of traveling through. We model the behavior, and as you can see in this chart, what the analysis is telling us is that the optimal amount of work in process that we should have at any given time in the system being worked on is 80 deliverables. 80. Hopefully you see that number in there, right? What does it mean? If I have more, I might get a bit more throughput, but not much, if you follow the red line. If I have less, I might actually lose some throughput because that horizontal line that you see where it says optimal is what we should be producing, okay? These are charts that are production charts that allow us to understand the behavior of systems, okay? Now these green dots, unfortunately, are the actual amount of work in process that that system had at that time, and is twice, if not more, the amount of deliverables that they should be working on. So someone has decided to push more work into the system, I repeat, hoping that at the end, you see the same amount coming out, but it's not coming out. Okay? It's not coming out. So I'm not gonna spend time on the other one, but that's when we are trying to understand the behavior. When we have an active production system that we want to control, we use a different approach. We call it production control. It's not the same as project controls. Controls is not the plural of control. I repeat, controls is not the plural of control. Control is about direction. Controls is about measurement and what has happened, okay? And so we use standard processes, some sort of production schedule, a way of creating production plans and analytics, and combine that engine, augmenting what the schedule wants, and we put that engine in place when we talk about controlling work. One of the things that we measure is the system reliable or not? I don't know about you guys, but what we have seen around the world is a significant desire to become predictable. Have you heard about that? Looking for predictability? Who doesn't want that, right? But you can predict to be late, and you are predictable.
By the way, this is what we are doing.
I don't know if you thought about that. You can predict that you're going to be late, and you're predictable. You just don't like the output, right? And so the predictability equation needs to have other components. And one of those components is how do we make sure the system becomes reliable? And we can measure the reliability of the system and why it's not reliable, and we can see how our cycle times, this is over a period of a year in engineering, has actually been compressed quite significantly. These are professionals like us working on this systematically. What is coming? The future, and I finish with this, I promise. Actually, I don't know if you noticed, but we are suffering the impact of variability through all the presentations, and now we need to compress our time. So what is happening, what we see happening, is that the advancements of technology are going to allow us to connect our production processes with things like IoT, right? Or digital platforms that are production-based in engineering, for instance. And all these connections, right, when we understand those processes, are going to help us to create digital twins, but not 3D models, but the digital twins of the actual production systems that we execute, where we have what we're controlling and what we are modeling the behavior is, and we can connect those. And this is happening today. I'm not showing you research or anything like it. There are companies doing this today, augmenting their other practices, okay? Birgitta.
Yeah, well, we have actually seen from Roberto how products and systems and control are applied in practice. We have learned a lot about what we understand about production system. So let me finish this with a short wrap-up. Across projects in Europe and beyond, we see digital twins and open BIM being applied not only as repositories of structured information, but also as enablers of collaboration, for example. For example, when we integrate an open BIM model in an integrated design delivery setting, it becomes more than just data. It becomes a shared decision-making space, and it reduces the friction of information exchange aligned in certainty and builds trust across the team. But we also see the limits. Too often, openBIM is still regarded and treated as a compliance exercise, a technical layer, but not a production lever, as Roberto talked about. Without embedding it into a production system, as we just presented today, we lose a lot of benefits. So we may get better models, but not necessarily better flow, better execution and implementation. So that is why integration of product systems like we just talked about and buildingSMART standards is crucial. And we like to push this forward, or I like to say pull it in the direction we have a shared understanding. The lesson from those cases we just presented is clear. Digital success is not just about data. It's about creating production systems where people can trust on the flow of the information, make better decisions faster when it makes sense, and focus their energy on value creation and not firefighting. This is what happens every day in our projects, not just once, but a lot of time. So, Roberto, up to you to make the last sentence.
We leave you, we're between you and lunch, so we leave you with one idea. In 2008, I had the opportunity to launch a certification program with Stanford University on virtual design and construction. And I was teaching that program for several years with Martin Fisher at SciFi. And now we're launching another program called Modern Construction, where this is going to be explored, right? We believe this is the next wave of innovation where we can combine the attributes of openBIM, but also look at what are the implications of the production. We cannot decouple them. Okay, so I'll leave you with that, and thank you guys for your time.
Enjoy the lunch.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Roberto and Birgitta. Actually, you can stay quite close. So, first of all, really great session today, I guess. Well, mission accomplished. We learned a lot. That was actually the task accomplished. Next task, yes, could be the lunch, but please wait, because we have a mandatory task in between. And this is our mandatory summit photo. And that's going to happen now. So please stay here and gather so that we can take our mandatory photo, which has already the correct background. So please come here.